All right, first and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakah, HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who I learn from. Shalom to the hopeful elect, preaching his word in truth, sincerity. To you ribs, to you sisters out there, learning silence and staying in order, I say to you all, Shalom. Right, I just saw this article from the People's Voice, and I gotta be real careful with what I say here because every time I post something from this, I end up saying something, me trying really hard. I don't know if they, most likely have this, you know, um, this page here, the People's Voice, um, on red flag basically. I mean, that's exactly what it is. Anything that comes from there, that putting it under a microscope. But anyways, this is fair use, right? And the title reads GATES Insiders Present Proof, right? If you could spell the word GATES, right? That's the man that we all know as, who. Insider presents proof, right? His insider presents proof of, um, you see that word, the V word, right? The hokey poke, right? That the hokey poke they gave everybody, the hokey poke emitting like Bluetooth signals with quote unquote death dates, right? This is fair use, right? Because since it first came out, you know, people were talking about that, this thing that they was putting in people, this venom was nanotechnology, right? It came from a facility which treats alleged cancer, right? And it wasn't really technically a conventional way of dealing with what we was dealing with that time. It was something different, right? And now we have an insider here, allegedly, um, from the inside, saying that these little nanotechnologies have an expiration date, meaning they were out to be put as a they was given a job. These little computers, and these little computers are sort of like the size of I want to say like a red blood cell, something like that, right? But they're smart. They could be mimicked and manipulated, right? But let's read on. It says, they told us it was about public health, about saving lives, but behind the polished speeches and careful crafted narrative, something far more sinister was taking shape, right? So they was telling you it was about, trying to help, peace, love. Let's get this, under wraps. But really, there's something else going on, right? This is Proverbs 55, verse 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, right? Because, you know, the people of this place, Babylon, look up to people who have more money than them, right? The scriptures say that when a rich man speaks, the people extol their words to the clouds, but when the poor speaks, they help to overthrow him, right? Paraphrasing, but it's the same thing, man. Like when the politicians and the doctors and things of that nature, when they speak, everybody just believes it just because they have conquered the minds of the people, right? They have sheeple on the top. Psalms 55:21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart, right? He had an agenda. He told you that was for safety, for helping the people, but really the agenda was to get these people, venomized and synchronized to then be deleted, right? His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords, right? Weapons. See, this was a weaponized event, man. This is the attack on the people, right? And they did it in a way where you will not suspect. They did it in the name of peace and safety, right? But the people are under attack, right? This is why the scriptures say that when the wicked are in authority, the people mourn. But when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. It's no different. Reading along. It says here, for over a decade, BG, you already know who we're talking about, BG, right? The millionaire and his network of unelected technocrats have poured billions into merging man with machine, not through open innovation, but through covert, Salakia. Covert, which means, let me get it actually so I don't butcher it. It says here, not openly acknowledged or displayed. See, covert definition, meaning and synonyms. Covert is the opposite of overt, which means obvious or in full view. Covert things are hidden privately or stealthily, right? It's hidden. Says not through open innovation, right? Not for the public knowledge to let everybody know what's going on in the name of science, right? But it says, but through covert or hidden experimentation on the global population. And after 2021, something changed quietly, permanently, right? I implore everybody who's watching this, if you haven't seen it yet, to, if you don't have, damn, what was that? Google died suddenly documentary and watch that, right? Reading along says now, embalmers, coroners, and insiders are sounding the alarm, right? These are workers that will work on the dead bodies. That's what it's talking about in that documentary. Healthcare professionals speaking out, right, and sounding the alarm, right? When they exhume these bodies, something's wrong, right? It says reporting bizarre and unnatural changes in the bodies of the recently deceased, strange synthetic fibers, right? Magnetic anomalies, and event evidence subject embedded microstructures that shouldn't be there, right? These are what we call squid games. What if the venerated aren't just victims of a rush medical experiment, but unwillingly participate in a live global test? Man, it's not a test because this is you know, pre thought of, before it even came about, right? Because Obama spoke about it, right, through his puppet mouth, that this was going to happen and that we need to prepare. But really, they were just, you know, getting y'all ready. Whoever took it, everybody's regretfully, looking back at it like, man, what did I do? It says, what if the human body has already been upgraded with without your permission? It may sound like science fiction until you see what we've uncovered. Stay with us. What you're about to hear could change how you see the world and yourself forever. Before we dive in, subscribe to the channel on Rumble. Follow me on Salakia. Why am I reading that? Is it, that's not part of this Salakia, man. That in recent months, a growing number of independent researchers, tech savvy citizens, and even curious skeptics have made a startling discovery that venerated, that's the word I'm using. I don't care. I know it's wrong, but I'm trying to keep this up. So the venerated individuals are emitting Bluetooth signals complete with a unique MAC address. Let that sink in. We're talking about bodies living living or dead, that are suddenly detectable by Bluetooth scanners, and in some cases, those MAC addresses are reportedly labeled with a single chilling identifier, venerated. Does that sound far fetched? We thought so too, until the evidence started stacking up. Video testimonies, field tests conducted in remote areas far from any Wi Fi or smart devices, and yet a Bluetooth scanning app picks up signals only when certain people are present. People who received the, the jump. Now if this is true, even partially, we are staring into the face of one of the most covert, large-scale biometric tagging operations in human history. Right, and this is the precursor, right? These little technologies, not only to it's a double-edged sword for them, right? Because he himself, BG, this man on this picture, right, um, said himself that he wanted to, you know, divide the numbers, you know, crunch the numbers of population, if you know what I mean, by unalive methods, right? And this is his plan, man, and it's starting to work. But he's also working with another shadow agency that is trying to change the currency of the dollar, man. And all you gotta do is tag you, and knowing that they have these little nano particles inside of you, right? They could Bluetooth your death, man. Right? Because before, the original plan was to have cyanide inside of that that rice device, but for whatever reason they're going with this method, right? So that way, these little robots could actually get the job done, right? With a signal. That's all they got to do. It's you're a walking time bomb in a sense, right? It says, now if this is true even partially, we are staring at it into a face of one of the most covert, large-scale biometrics tagging operations in human history. And here's the part they really don't want you to hear. You can test this yourself. So the question becomes, what are these signals for? Is tracking data transfer, remote activation? And more importantly, were these people micro to the hip without their knowledge? Right? I don't know, man. I, I gotta ask a question. I mean, these camps, ICPK and IUIC, like what are they if they did get these things, so they could keep the Passover, what do they think about it? Or do they believe it's just a conspiracy, right? But anyways, it says, and more importantly, were these people micro-hipped without their knowledge? There aren't just French whisperers anymore. Independent investigators, including former telecom engineers and medical examiners, are now reporting that corpses of individuals venerated after 2021 are emitting traceable radio frequency sound signals. Not hypothetically, not in theory, in real observable terms. In controlled lab environments, these signals are being picked up using standard RF detection equipment, the same kind used to test wireless interfaces and locate hidden surveillances and devices. We're talking about measurable emissions coming out of human remains emitting that should not be there. And this brings us right back to the World Economic Forum. The last year, the People's Voice warned that WEF is collaborated with select academic institutes and corporate stakeholders, right, according to the People's Voice, was laying the groundwork to transform human beings into components of upcoming 6G infrastructure, alleged, right? This is fair use, fair use. Right, this goes pretty long, man. I don't think I'm gonna be able to read all this, but you guys see that. You guys see the title. Look it up. All right, I'm gonna leave y'all with one more. Sirach 12:10. Never trust thine enemy, for like as an iron rusteth, so is his wickedness. Right, jumping down to verse 12. Set him not by thee, lest when he has overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place. Right, this person's always trying to up you, or keep you under. Right, so don't be side by side hanging out and thinking it's your buddy. Right, because the scriptures will say, though hand hold join in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished. Right, it says, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words, and he pricked therewith. Who will pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent? Right, this is what he did, man. He pricked you, man, with that venom. It says, and any such as come nigh wild beasts. So one that goeth in it to a sinner and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? For a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry. Right, this is that dog eat dog mentality, man. And all you people that went down to Egypt for help, are suddenly regretting it. Right, this is the last time that the people are gonna be fooled, because half of them are already done. Right, they're gonna have to come up with a new way, which that man BG has thought about putting in foods too. So we gotta pray, man. We gotta pray for mercy, man. Woe to y'all that went down to Egypt for help, man, in those times. That's Isaiah chapter 30, verse 1 through 3. Anyways, man, I wanna I pray this lesson was edifying. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of GMS who I learned from, and a healthy shalom to those for like Christian's word and truth, sincerity. To you ribs, to you sisters out there learning silence and staying in order, I say to you all, shalom.